Every day, somewhere in America, more than 300 innocent men, women, and children become victims of medical malpractice at the hands of incompetent and negligent doctors. Last year, over 98,000 victims were killed by doctors. More than 4 million victims are permanently injured each year. In this insider-exclusive network TV special, Justice in America, Mary Ann and Bradley Downing's story, we visit with Lloyd Bell, founder of Bell Law. As we take you inside today's legal system, examining his legal strategies and in vivid detail, showing you the heartbreaking story of the wrongful death of Mary Ann Downing's 41-year-old disabled son, Bradley Downing. Bradley was severely burned with scalding water by a certified nursing assistant while under the care of Complete Care LLC in Dunwoody, Georgia, who burned his chest, upper arms, and left leg. Approximately 1 month later, Bradley was rushed to the emergency department of Northeast Georgia Medical Center, suffering from severe sepsis. Bradley died on May 29th, 2018, from multiple organ failure. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Atlanta, Georgia. It is my great pleasure to introduce Lloyd Bell to the show. Welcome to the show, Lloyd.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Tell our audience a little bit about your practice of law. It seems like you do a lot of medical malpractice cases. Why?
I do a lot of medical malpractice cases. I've been practicing now for about 20 years, and I come by it rightfully. My father was a doctor. He was also a lawyer, and he sort of opened me up to the need for medical malpractice lawyers who are willing to take on these cases. These cases are extremely challenging, they're expensive, and they require a specialized interest in medicine. And on a more personal level, my brother was a victim of medical malpractice. He was a service member, and he served in Iraq, he served in Afghanistan, and was exposed to the chemicals in the atmosphere, and he developed lung cancer. And he came back to the States, and it was not diagnosed by the Veterans Administration for many, many months. They didn't give him the appropriate tests. And at the age of 53, he died of lung cancer. Medical malpractice is very personal to me, and I'm very committed to the victims of malpractice and trying to help them obtain justice.
Today we're here discussing the case of Bradley Downing, who you are representing his mother. He's deceased now. Who was Bradley?
Bradley Downing was a very special young man. He had had a very difficult set of circumstances that he's lived with his whole life. When he was a young child, he suffered an event which left him with severe brain damage. So he did not develop along the normal pathway that people do. So he lived with a lifetime of disabilities, but Bradley was truly blessed with a family that loved him dearly and a very devoted mother who committed her life to taking care of Bradley and to keeping Bradley in her home so that she could care for him and not put him into an institution or some facility. She took Bradley out in the community so Bradley could engage and make friends. Bradley went to high school, graduated from high school in a special program. He was actually in the Special Olympics. Bradley was an Olympian and a very, very special man, but he lived with profound disabilities. He was nonverbal. He couldn't speak, but he could make noises and communicate his needs. He never grew beyond 4 feet in height. He could not walk on his own. He could not feed himself. So he had a number of significant disabilities, but Bradley was a champion. He had an infectious smile. When he graduated from high school, the valedictorian, a beautiful young woman, insisted on being the one to push his wheelchair across the stage. And the entire auditorium stood up and cheered and applauded for Bradley, who had made it through high school graduation. So he was a very special man who touched a lot of people's lives.
Wow. What happened to Bradley? And what is this case all about?
Bradley suffered a wrongful death. Bradley's life ended prematurely because of medical malpractice. a home care company, Complete Home Care, that was contracted with Bradley's mother to come in to Bradley's home and provide basic care, including bathing. Came in, and one day the attendant took Bradley back to the bathroom to shower him, to clean him, like she had done on many occasions. The bathtub has a sort of a bed, a plastic type bed where she would lay Bradley down. There was a faucet with one of those spray spouts that she would use to bathe and rinse. Well, she sprayed Bradley off and she soaked him up like she had done many times. And then the nurse attendant went back to the faucet to try and lower the pressure. Well, unfortunately, instead of lowering the pressure, she turned it on to scalding temperature. And the attendant did not test the water before spraying Bradley down again. And she sprayed Bradley's upper chest with extremely hot scalding water, and he screamed with a scream that his mother describes as the voice from hell, and she's never heard a scream like that before.
What was the end result?
Well, the end result is he suffered extreme burns across his upper body, and Bradley was taken to the burn unit at Grady Hospital, and he was admitted and remained in the hospital for over a month while they had to debride or remove the dead skin and try to restore his skin. Well, Bradley was living with a number of disabilities and essentially didn't have enough fuel in the tank to survive this extreme trauma, and other things started breaking. He started swelling. His genital area swelled up to multiple sizes from normal. His chest swelled, his face swelled, his tongue swelled, and eventually he developed sepsis, which is a type of infection. He developed pneumonia, and he was moving in the wrong direction, and it was clear he wasn't going to survive.
You are representing the family, and Marianne is the mother.
She is a wonderful lady.
You have all this evidence. You've got the proof. We all see the photos. We all know what the nurse failed to do. Why are they going to court?
Well, they've denied. We have filed a lawsuit, and they have denied responsibility.
How can they deny responsibility?
We're relatively early in discovery in this case. There are a number of depositions that are scheduled that have not yet taken place, but according to their pleadings that they have filed, their official pleadings in the case, they do not believe that they did anything wrong, violated the standard of care, and that's where the case stands currently.
You mentioned earlier that Bradley had to be bathed by somebody, and for years and years and years, this has happened, right? How does one figure, when you've done it right for so many times, that when you burn someone, that's not wrong?
It's hard to know how they're thinking about this exactly. My suspicion is that they are going to try and blame Bradley's mother and suggest that her hot water container was too hot, or that she has some sort of responsibility for what happened. It's an ugly defense. It's a dirty defense, but we see it time and time again in situations where children and people with disabilities are harmed through negligence. They try to oftentimes turn and blame the victim, or blame the victim's mother in this case. And we're starting to see some indication that might be where they're going with this.
You may have a trial next year, 2020, correct?
That's what the goal would be. It's possible it could be even after that, but we expect we'd have a trial in 2020.
Tell our audience a little bit about wrongful death suits. What is a claim for wrongful death?
A wrongful death claim arises when somebody, either is an individual or a corporation, that they do something that's negligent, that's wrong, that causes the death of somebody else. If we're thinking about it in maybe a motor vehicle case or a tractor trailer case, it would be the equivalent of running a red light, hitting somebody, and then killing that person. That would give rise to a wrongful death claim. In a medical malpractice case such as this is a wrongful death claim because the people who are responsible for providing good medical care to Bradley, in this case good nursing care to Bradley, home care, did not do their job. They fell below the standard of care, and that is what caused Bradley's death. It's not a case based on intent. Nobody intended to harm Bradley. And our heart goes out, frankly, to the nurse assistant, the CNA, the certified nurse assistant who did this. She didn't mean to hurt Bradley, but there has to be accountability, there has to be responsibility when things like this happened so that they don't happen to other people.
What damages are recoverable in wrongful death suits?
Every state has a different approach in some degree to the damages that are recoverable. In Georgia, the damages that are recoverable are the full damages for the full value of the life of the deceased, the life of Bradley, from Bradley's perspective. So in other words, some states value the grief that a mother might feel over the loss of a child, or a parent over a child, whatever that might be.
I understand he was 41 years old.
He was.
That it was estimated that his lifespan would be another 32 years, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
That is right, yeah.
So all that's taken into account, correct?
It is, but it's not just the number of years he had to live. It's the things that he enjoyed in his life. Watching football on TV, maybe not Falcons football, that would be unfortunate in this state. But he loved watching sports, he loved watching TV, he loved the opera. His mother would take him to the opera, and he loved the opera, and he came alive hearing those strong voices. So Georgia values all of those things, all of those diamonds in his life that would give joy to him. Despite his disabilities, he had joy, he had love, not only that he felt, but that he had to give others. And as best money can do it, Georgia tries to hold accountable the wrongdoer and make them pay the cost of the damages that they've inflicted.
And in this suit, even though it's a wrongful death suit, it was caused by medical malpractice. You still have to provide the experts, right?
That's right.
To show that the nurse, even though she may not have intended to harm him, and I'm sure she didn't, the experts show that she didn't meet the reasonable standard of care, correct?
That's right. That's right. We have to prove that with expert testimony that this is the standard that has to be followed, and the standard was not followed in this case. And that's our burden to prove that.
Since you are well known for getting successful verdicts and settlements in medical malpractice cases, a lot of people will contact you. How do you determine the cases that you want to handle?
Well, unfortunately, we can't handle every case that comes to us. But we have to focus on the types of cases that we are best equipped to handle. So the first question we look at is, what has been the outcome of the supposed malpractice? Unfortunately, it has to be a catastrophic injury or a wrongful death. So that's the starting place. What's been the outcome? We see a lot of cases of medical malpractice where the potential client will approach us and explain a horrible situation they've been through, but if they've had a full recovery, that's not a case, unfortunately, we can take on. So we look at the injury, and then we get the medical records, and then we examine the medical records. We have a medical staff that's available to us to review the records, and we kind of put on our Sherlock Holmes hats and start investigating and start digging, and then we go through that process. We tell our client every step of the way what we're discovering, and then ultimately we have to make a decision. Is there malpractice? If yes, is it a case that we can proceed? And if it's not, we have a wide network of attorneys we refer cases to. But if it's a case that we take on, then obviously we'll bring all our resources into that case.
Good. Well, good luck with this case, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.